Hello and welcome to this presentation of information for new university supervisors, specifically for those supervisors working with working student teachers who are on the two-year program plan. These are student teachers who either have a credential that's not a single subject credential, like a designated subject credential, or they were hired as an intern, or they were hired at a private school. They may be teaching with lots of experience, they may be teaching with very little experience. This is a broad category of supervisor information, but it is good information. My name is Anna Thaler-Peterson. I'm the Fieldwork Coordinator for the Secondary Education Program here at Humboldt State, and I'll be walking you through this presentation. To begin with, who are university supervisors? For our program, the supervisor is the liaison between the school site and the credential program office. The supervisor works closely with the mentor teacher and the student teacher together to ensure that program requirements are met. They communicate regularly about what they find at the school site with me, the Fieldwork Coordinator, to make sure that all the student-teacher placements are monitored and supported appropriately. For that reason, paperwork needs to be turned in a timely manner. So there's deadlines for submitting forms in the handbook, and there's regular email communication, etc., and other paperwork frequently exchanged. In terms of the first fall semester of the two-year program plan, it's important to establish a professional, positive relationship with the student teacher, get to know them, make them understand what you're there to offer, make sure that there's good communication between them and their mentor teacher. Now, in these situations, often the mentor is a department chair or a principal or a supervising administrator of some sort who works at the school site. They're not someone who, the traditional mentor is the teacher, and the student teacher comes into their classroom. This student teacher, the working student teacher, has their own classroom. As I mentioned, they might have experience. So the third bullet there talks about how in that situation, it's most appropriate to act as a point person. As that person, you would be conducting ongoing observations, conferencing with the student teacher, analyzing student work with them, providing lesson planning feedback, and working with them to reflect on their own pedagogy. During that fall semester, for our purposes, we need you to contact the student teacher at least 5 times and visit them at their school site at least 3 times. Since many placements are outside of our local area and mentor teachers are often very busy at the start of the year, too busy to come to campus here and too far away in some cases, we're going to be bringing training to them through you. It's your responsibility near the start of the year to walk them through the handbook for mentor teachers of working teachers. That acquaints them with their responsibilities, the requirements of mentors, how to be effective, and what to do in the case of issues. There's also a mentor section of our website that could be informative for them, and they'll want to understand the structure of the two-year program, that it's 4 semesters, that you'll be visiting a minimum of 3 times each semester. First visit to talk about the schedule and plan other visits, and the other 2 visits for conducting clinical observations and evaluations of the student teacher. During that first visit with both the mentor and student teacher, it'll be important to explain the supervisor's role as representing the credential program. You're employed by the credential program, by us, and make sure that they understand the requirements that are there for them. You'll want to complete the fall fieldwork agreement form together that first fall semester so that everyone knows what the schedule is and where they can find whoever when. The other 2 visits should be used to perform clinical observations and evaluate the student teacher using the mid-semester and then the end of the semester assessment forms. Clinical observations are essentially the student teacher provides a lesson plan and says a day that they want you to visit or observe them, provides the lesson plan for that day. You observe, you fill out 1 or 2 observation forms, Form A or Form B, one has more structure than the other. And you also fill out an observation form linking what you've seen with the TPEs, the teacher performance expectations, so that our program is grounded in that. After the observation, a conference is held with the student teacher and the mentor, if they're available, to talk about what was seen, and they're then allowed to add their comments to the observation regarding their reflection on the day. Evaluations occur at the mid-semester point at the end of the semester. They are subject-specific for the core subjects of English, Maths, Social Science, and Science, and general for all other subjects. They should be conducted in a 3-way meeting with the mentor and student teacher. They can occur during the same visit as the clinical observations, or if it seems necessary to have another meeting, that's fine too. There's a rating scale of 1 to 4, 1 being weak, 2 developing, 3 adequate, and 4 strong. People who are exceeding expectations, don't need any support at all, are 4. 3 is strong, still some things to learn. 2, lots more to learn. And 1 is not acceptable to have more than 1 on an evaluation form. And in that situation, we would need to discuss providing additional support for the student teacher. There's some paperwork that's displayed here for the fall. There's the fall fieldwork agreement form, which describes the student teacher's schedule. The clinical observation paperwork, there's the 2 possible observation forms, one with more structure, one with less, and the table form, which is the TPE observation form here. There's a mid-semester formative assessment form here, and the end of the semester summative assessment form here. There's also a contact log that I'll need turned in with these forms at the end of each semester or phase, which I'll talk about in a minute. There should be at least 5 contacts and 3 school site visits. Normally that number is exceeded, but in the case of a student teacher who needs very little support, that outline should work just fine. Intersession is one of the weird phases of the credential program. This occurs between when HSU goes on winter break, which is in late December, prior to Christmas, and when it returns, which is in late January. Public schools often come back from winter break much earlier, and there's 2 or 3 weeks of instruction going on when HSU is not in session. So the university has invented this class, SED 763, that covers that time. In many public schools, the fall semester continues after winter break. So winter break comes in late December, people come back from winter break in early January, and then they have review and finals before the spring semester begins in late January. If that's true, that's fine. You can do the summative evaluation that month if that makes more sense than doing it in December. It'll be important to maintain a contact log and visit if needed. And any remaining clinical observations that need to be completed can also occur during this time. There's the contact log. For the first spring semester, again, that 5 contacts and 3 site visits continues with 2 clinical observations and 2 evaluations. During that first visit with them, it's important to get that fieldwork agreement done. Other 2 visits should be used to perform clinical observations and evaluate the student teacher using these assessment forms. During the early spring semester, student teachers will be required to complete a VELR. This is a video elicited lesson reflection. They're going to film a class of theirs. They'll complete a worksheet packet on our website to reflect on their teaching during that class. They'll then discuss what they see with their supervisor. And if you fill out the required clinical observation forms by watching the video with them in that discussion, then you can count that as a clinical observation. For spring, this paperwork should look very familiar. I've got some terms incorrect on this page, I'm sorry. So the clinical observation forms, the 764 is actually the regular student teacher's version of the mid-semester assessment form, and 765 is the end of the semester assessment form. And again, a contact log. Second fall semester is much the same as the first, and second intersession, same as the first. In the second year of a 2-year program, student teachers complete PACT, which is a performance assessment for California teachers. This is a requirement of all credential programs to have a teacher performance assessment. PACT is the version that we use. It is organized and administered by Stanford, and we calibrate with them to score students' submissions. It's essentially an e-portfolio. They complete a lot of writing in an online portfolio and film themselves teaching. They have a class that structures the support for this project, and they complete essentially they write a lot of narrative about planning, about instructing. They film themselves instructing, reflect on that. Then they look at assessment, reflection, and a thread of academic language that's emphasized throughout. This is a high-stakes assessment. They have to pass. They have 2 chances. If they don't pass, they don't get a credential. They are encouraged to seek input and feedback from you and from their peers and their instructors. But the tricky thing is that the rules of PACT mean that you can't offer direct comments about what they're doing. You can't say, that video isn't very good, or there's not enough writing in this section. You can ask guiding questions, however. So you can say, that was an interesting video, or actually you can't say that, but you can say, have you looked at maybe using a different video? Have you thought about why this video is the best choice? You can say, have you thought about what else you could add to the section, or have you thought about adding something more about the theoretical basis of your instruction here? That sort of thing. Second spring semester required components, same as first spring. There's the initial meeting to do the fieldwork agreement and other 2 visits for clinical observations and evaluations. To finish up the year, at the end of each year, the summative evaluation should be done in mid-May, ideally. Because once the academic year at HSU has ended, your contract is ended. You're on the academic year contract. So if you need to visit any more times to complete the required clinical observations or evaluations, or if there's something going on and you feel like they need additional support, you'll need to complete a special consultant timesheet to be compensated for your time. And I can help you get connected with that. Another obligation of supervisors is to write a recommendation letter for supervisees at the end of things. There are evaluations of the fieldwork setting and of you, the university supervisor, that occur during the second spring. Mid-semester, there's 2 forms, one about the fieldwork setting and one about the supervisor, that should be handed out to the appropriate people at the mid-semester evaluation meeting. Sorry for the misprint about 764. And the end of semester evaluation of the fieldwork setting form should be given to the student teacher and completed by you as well at the end of semester evaluative meeting. There is an end of semester evaluation of supervisors. That one is administered electronically by the university. In terms of concerns about student teachers, it's up to the mentor to communicate with you about anything that they see. And once they've done that, it's your job to observe and corroborate to see if you saw the same thing. The next step would be to arrange a meeting to document strengths, talk about what needs to improve, what you've been seeing, what the mentor teacher has seen. At that point, it's a good idea to write specific goals, connect them with those teacher performance expectations that our evaluations are aligned with, and talk about upcoming fieldwork assessments. You know, we have a mid-semester assessment coming. Let's make sure that by this date you're doing this. If then you get to that point and those criteria are not met, a performance improvement plan or contract is appropriate. That's cause for a meeting. Supervisor, mentor, and student teacher should sit down to meet about that, and then write up a contract documenting the goals that have not been met and what's been done about them so far, and includes a timeline for meeting them in line with any future fieldwork assessments, as well as consequences for not meeting that goal. If you're seeing problems with planning, perhaps the goal is to have a piece of literature read and annotated and ready to teach by 2 weeks before the teaching would begin. And the date is February 15th, and the consequence for not meeting that goal is discussion with the principal and with their supervisor, with their department chair, with their employer, essentially, to talk about what that means for their employment situation, and talking with me about what would be an appropriate consequence for someone in our program who's not progressing at the pace that they should. Additional resources about all of this can be found on our website, where there's handbooks, forms, and videos, and calendars. And that's it. That's the conclusion of our presentation. So thanks very much for listening, and looking very much forward to working with you this year. Take care.